Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to do some further speculation and rabbit hole diving for the Division 3. We've been doing a lot of these videos lately, but it seems like you guys are enjoying it, and so yeah, I want to keep going with it. I'm having fun with it, so let's just keep the train rolling. So, I want to start this one off. You've obviously read the title, but let's give it a bit of background. I want to start off with a trip back in time to update 1.8 of the Division 1. We saw the introduction of a pretty major thing for PvP and the DZ, and that was Rogue 2.0. Now, at the time, not everyone was happy with it, and some people loved it. You know, it was very divisive. I personally, kind of missed that element of just being able to shoot on sight and you get the timer. That was obviously what we had in year one with the ODZ in Division 2 as well. And so I was a little bummed that that was going away. Overall, I think Rogue 2.0 did a lot of positive things for the game, and, some things not as well. But what we learned later on, it became apparent when Division 2 came out and when some other stuff happened, was that that was basically big testing for the Division 2's PvP, right? The structure of how PvP was going to be in Division 2 was basically what they were testing in the DZ in Division 1 in 1.8. We had a toggle system, we had the new manhunt system, and yeah, it was basically revealed to us that that's what that all, was all along. It wasn't as much them wanting to change the Division 1 system. They just wanted to see how we would react to what they were thinking about for Division 2. And similarly, we also saw with Skirmish, they introduced that in 1.8, and that was basically the flagstone mode for conflict in Division 2. I mean, we had domination as well, but I think that Skirmish is kind of everyone's favorite, and that's the one that they kind of most heavily tested in Division 1. And again, the majority of the content and mechanics of how that worked was brought over into the Division 2. We had that. We also had the West Side Piers, which is an open world expansion. I don't know how, similar that really ended up being to any of Division 2's open world stuff, but it is, clearly they made a bigger push to have open world random activity spawn and see how they could work all that kind of stuff in. And so while that influence didn't as much directly go to Division 2, you can definitely see that they were trying to test out how can we do open world stuff to keep people engaged and keep the world flowing and dynamic, as we saw with Division 2's open world. So if you didn't know, that's basically what happened with 1.8 and what a lot of us realized back then. So what I want to think about now, and what I think we should all start kind of pointing our heads to is the same thing happening right now? As we look around us and what's happening in the Division 2, are they testing for the Division 3 right now in the Division 2? Because if you look at how the timelines are, and this is a big, point of contention in the community right now, TU12 is releasing in the same time slot that 1.8 released for the Division 1, the following December, the year after the game comes out. So if they were to follow the same timeline, then TU12 would be the last big update for the Division 2. Now, there's been heavy speculation on if there's going to be another expansion this coming March or not. No one knows. I don't really have a firm, belief in my head of what, scenario will go down. But if they were to follow the same path, then TU12 would be the last major update. So we see the optimization station returning, and kind of looking at what we've gotten over this last, few months of year 2, are they testing stuff for Division 3 right now in Div 2? If this is in fact, the final big update of the Division 2, that's what I want to talk about here. So to start it off, I want to begin with shouting out another YouTuber who I haven't mentioned here before, surprisingly, considering I've gone so far into Division 3. I feel really bad. I'm not going to say his full name because I don't actually know how you pronounce it. He always introduces himself as DA in his videos. I will link his channel in the description if you want to go check him out. He has a lot of videos talking about the future of the franchise, not only Division, some other games as well, because he claims, and before I get too far into it, I don't want to say that I can confirm his information one way or another. Basically, he does these interviews, as he says, he does interviews with developers at Massive, at BioWare, at these other places, and then reports some of that information to us without breaking their, anonymity or anything like that. It's not my place to say whether or not that information is true. Obviously, anything that's not confirmed by official sources, you have to take with a grain of salt, but I don't doubt his sincerity on the topic of these things. I just can't say one way or another whether or not the information is fully true. That being said, what he has said so far for the Division 3 is that currently, or at least, recently, Red Storm has been working on the initial kind of framework and body of the Division 3, and that's going to revolve around you being able to choose either PvE or PvP servers to play on. So basically, you log in and you choose if you want your world to be PvE, or I should say more specifically, PvPvE, are the two options. So, sounds pretty interesting, right? And funny enough, that kind of aligns with what my vision for Division 3 was in my Dream for the Division 3 reimagined video that a lot of you liked that I put out, about 2 months ago now. So, that's pretty interesting. Now, what I want to extrapolate from that is if that's true, if it's true that that's currently what's happening with Division 3, I mean, obviously we don't know, he says that that's what's happening, then can we kind of see what they're testing in Division 2 that would work towards building that image? And I think yes. If it's true that you can pick a PvE server, then I think it's highly likely that you're going to probably be able to customize that experience to some degree. That's where they've been heading very, heavily with Division 2, most namely in when Warlords dropped, which it would have been a bit earlier. Warlords is earlier than the Division 1 timeline of when they started testing stuff for the Division 2, but I think if we look at Warlords, the big thing coming out of that they could have used for testing is the PvE world difficulty selector. Obviously, before Warlords in year 1, the PvE world was just static. You couldn't change the difficulty about it. You could scale up control point difficulties, but you couldn't set the overall difficulty for the entire world like you can now. You can go from normal all the way up to heroic. And if you think about it, after Warlords came out, they spent a long time tuning that stuff. The loot drops, the enemy difficulties, all that kind of stuff. They spent a long time and many updates up until, I think even in TU10 they were still changing it, trying to get that tuning right. Now we're at a pretty good spot with it that I think a lot of people are happy with as far as the loot goes and the difficulty. But think about how long they took fine-tuning all that kind of stuff. How much you want to bet that Division 3 is going to have some sort of system where if you choose this PvE server, if his information turns out to be true, you choose a PvE server and you can then choose what difficulty you want your world on. I think that that's a very likely scenario that we have to consider. And, if we look around us, what are they testing right now? I think that's very likely what it could be. A smaller bit of that, but something that's notable nonetheless, is Summit. With the 11.1 changes, you can now customize your entire Summit experience. You can choose your difficulty. You can choose how many, what are they called? Not modifiers. How many directives you want on there. And you can choose your own target loot. I think a lot of that customizable experience aspect for PvE, context of the Division, is definitely something that the devs are leaning into, and something I think is very likely that they're testing right now in Division 2 for at least concepts and framework that they could put into the Division 3. Now, the last part of this that I think is also very interesting, and what it kind of lines up with my Division 3 video that I did, was that there have been no PvP changes or additions since TU6 in the Division 2. I mean, we had a rework in the Dark Zone in TU8, but that didn't add any new content, didn't really change any of the fundamentals, it just made the experience a bit smoother and better. So, considering how in Division 1, we were still getting PvP stuff up to 1.8 for them trying to figure out what they wanted to, evolve and continue for the Division 2, you have to wonder, are they going to keep any of the ideas that they have in Division 2 for PvP? I don't think so, and I hope to God that I'm right, because I'm not going to say nobody. I don't like the PvP in Division 2, I've made that very clear. I've talked to a lot of people who feel the same way as me about that. They think that Division 1 was better, and so if it's true that the reason we're seeing no big PvP changes is because currently behind the scenes, Redstorm and Massive and whoever are like, well, PvP didn't really work out in the Division 2, so there's really no point in us trying to test stuff and add stuff to it, because we're going to take it in an entirely new direction in the Division 3. I really hope that that's the case, and if what DA is saying is true and you can choose to go in a PvPvE server, and maybe it's kind of like what my vision for it was, where you have two factions or some sort of large-scale world PvP content, then there wouldn't really be any way for them to test that in the Division 2 unless they added some sort of whole new PvP expansion, and I don't think that's really worth their effort if they are in fact heavily into development on the Division 3. So that's it, guys. That's really the gist of what I wanted to get out there with this video, is just to, have everyone start considering. Are they testing things right now in Division 2 for the Division 3? I think it's very likely, and some of those things I've laid out in this video are definitely possibilities for what we could see them adopt and, evolve and innovate on for the Division 3. Again, shout out to DA for, sampling some of the evidence and information I used in this video. His channel will once again be linked in the description of this video. If you want to go check him out, he does a lot of great stuff. Again, I'm not confirming the stuff that he puts out there. I, fully believe his sincerity on the topic, but again, until things are confirmed by official sources, I would not take his information as being 100% accurate, because again, we just don't know until we get that official confirmation. But I appreciate his reporting, and if it is true, then I'm definitely very excited for where the future of Division could lead, so let's hope he's right. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Head down to the comments and let me know what you think about this idea of testing in the Division 2. Do you think they're actively testing things for the Division 3? Do you think it's some of the things I pointed out, or perhaps some other things that I'd left out in this video? Let me know your thoughts on that down below, as well as your general thoughts, and if you even want the, current systems in the Division 2 to carry over in some form to the Division 3. Let me know everything you think about that. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.